Alright, it's time for an Ultimate Fighter review. We got a lot of information this time, so I'm going to concentrate more on the meat and ignore the ketchup, so to speak. Here we go! First up, in terms of import, we have the wildcard fight, Chris McCray, Casey Escola. Casey Escola is a bit of a mystery to me in that he supposedly has this big wrestling pedigree, which prior to the show I did not know because I would never suspected it watching his other fights. Because basically every fight he's ever had where someone wanted to take him down, it pretty much happened. Like, without a terribly large amount of fight in it. And, that's a bit strange as, you're kind of making Casey out to be kind of a Chuck Liddell style fighter. He likes to stand and bang, but he's got that really good wrestling pedigree that, should allow him to keep it on the feet, and it doesn't. Anyways, as for the fight with McCray, Casey looking good in the stand-up portion of the fight. He was landing a couple of good combos, mostly just jabs, though. It was largely neither guy really throwing a lot of combinations, but when they did get into the combination exchanges, Casey won those. I thought he was winning the fight up until the last minute of the first round, basically. Chris had a takedown earlier on, but Casey got right back up, took a knee to the nuts, got a separation. Towards the end, though, Chris did get a takedown, also had his back, also beat him up a little bit. He was, basically had a moment of domination that Casey had not established during the entire stand-up phases of the fight, which makes me think that round one goes McCray. Round two, a little bit more of the same. McCray gets a pretty quick takedown and locks on Kimura, gets the submission, the tap out. Casey got to learn that he had a son before this fight. I kind of wonder if that was maybe in his head, but no excuses really necessary here. He doesn't try to come up with any, and that's all there's to it. Next really important thing was the making of the quarterfinal fights. Dana calls the coaches in, what do you guys think? What do you guys think of the top four fighters? And I pretty much agree with the assessment of, Tito's thoughts on the top four. That being said, I don't really understand, and Chuck just said later it was just that Tito won, why there was such an issue on the Nick Ring Court McGee fight versus the Nick Ring Josh Bryant fight, in that I kind of look at the matchup for both, and I kind of see Nick's a better stand-up fighter than both of them when healthy, which he's not, but we'll get to that in a bit. But when healthy, he's a better stand-up fighter. I think he's probably a better grappler, but he's not a better wrestler than either of them. And so it's largely a very similar matchup. It's kind of what I'm going on. It's kind of like you could fight John Fitch or Josh Koscheck, and you're a guy who has better stand-up than both of them, and it has like a BJJ brown belt. Your chances against both, I think, are fairly similar, really. But anyways, we get the matchups. Dana sends him out, and basically makes him on his own. Which, this is just the weird thing, is that there's a really easy way to make these. You both have four fighters, rank them 1 to 4. Your one fights his 4, and so on. That would be just the easiest way, or just rank all 8 of them, and put the wild card, and it's even pretty easy to say who your bottom guy is. Put the wild card winner, which was Chris McCray, put the Court McGee, because you got to come back without winning a fight at the bottom, and then you rank your other 3, and then, you get matchups that way, and it's just really easy. I don't know why this takes so long. But anyways, the fights are Nick Ring versus Court McGee in basically the rematch, the third round, so to speak. Kyle Noke versus crap. Memory fading. Crap. No, it's Tavares versus Seth. It's Josh Bryant and Jaeger, and Kyle Noke versus Chris McCray. What? I don't know why that took so long. Anyways, Kyle Noke versus Chris. Now, so we get a second fight, which is Nick Ring. Actually, it might have been the other way around. look it up for yourselves. But anyways, so we got the Nick Ring versus Court McGee fight on the horizon. Forrest Griffin shows up for 2-hour Ultimate Fighter 2010 or UFC 2000 Undisputed 2010 thing. It was neat. That's all there needs to be said about that, really. Nick goes to see a bone and joint specialist. He has a torn ACL. He says he can fight, which is true, but that, there's a lot of risk here that, you could do a lot more damage. You could tear the meniscus. You could injure the bone surface. That I had never heard of with an ACL, but I'm not going to question the doctor. So Dana shows up at the house, and Nick Ring basically says, I'm out. He doesn't want to be out, and I don't know. I kind of dislike Dana's tone throughout this a little bit. Like, at least he didn't really trash out a guy who's quitting the tournament, so to speak. But I don't know. It's a torn ACL. I don't know why he seemed almost surprised or disappointed that Nick wanted out when it's a pretty serious injury. Anyways, he says you'll know whenever, and that he and the coaches are going to decide who comes back. Joe Henley thinks it's him. Probably have to agree, as he is the only one of the losing fighters who seems to still has a fully healthy body, because of course Hammertree has the messed up back. You have the messed up foot of Charlie Blanchard. You have the messed up shoulder of Clayton McKinney. That's the one. And Rich Antonio, of course, is out with a broken hand. So I mean, it's basically Henley or largely just Henley. But Hammertree goes out there to talk to Dana, and he gets the fight, and I like that. Mainly because I think Hammertree is closer along to UFC level than Henley is. I think Henley is the furthest away. He's the most inexperienced. Hammertree, I don't really understand what the hype on the internet of him is about. I don't really get it. Maybe it's he made a guy quit on the stool, but that was a negative reflection on his opponent more than it was a positive reflection on Hammertree. But anyways, so we got Hammertree, Court McGee. It's an interesting fight because I think both of these guys are kind of the same. They're wrestlers who don't have any particularly strong wrestling pedigree. They do have other skills, but the wrestling's probably the most dominant feature. Although Court likes to stand up and Hammertree likes to stand up, but their stand up both has holes in it, I think, in my opinion. So the fight goes on. Round one, we got Court getting the better of the exchanges, but nothing horrendously dominant. He also had 2 takedowns, I do believe, on Hammertree. It didn't amount to anything, but I've said it before. Takedowns do score points. They just don't necessarily they don't win you the fight the way some judges seem to think it does. But they are worth points, and that's a subject to debate in the MMA circles of the internet a lot as to whether a takedown is really worth anything. That being said, first round comes to an end. Hammertree did have a brief moment on his back, but it wasn't really much. I'd have to give the round to Court. Tito thought differently, apparently. He thought Hammertree won the round, and I don't really think he did. Second round, a little bit more of the same. Hammertree goes for a takedown, gets caught in a guillotine, standing guillotine. Looked pretty tight because he seemed to almost be about ready to pass out, which was impressive. So I don't think we've seen a standing guillotine that effective in the UFC or on the Ultimate Fighter. So Court McGee moves on to claim a spot in the semifinals. There are 3 more spots, obviously. And we will see 2 fights next week. Apparently one is a very controversial decision that Tito is very angry at, so assumably it goes in Chuck's favor. Which is weird, because looking at the 2 fights coming up, it's the Noak and... Snoke fighting either Bakaczynski or McRae. I think it's McRae. And then Bakaczynski fighting Tavares, I think, is the matchups. I'm pretty sure those are the matchups. I thought those 2 fights weren't actually going to be that close, so someone's going to surprise me, I think. That's my prediction. and apparently looks like we are finally getting the Tito leaving the show / abandoning the Chuck fight. So it promises to be a very interesting episode. So that's all for today. Peace out.